there's a remedy there for at least phone calls for some people. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So let's get to the stories, and then we can talk about what's next. Okay, well, that's not the story. Okay, that's the story. Okay, so IRS phone lines are overwhelmed. Here's how to get answers about your taxes. Now, they are really pushing the IRS.gov. They have made tremendous gains there to get more and more people to go to IRS.gov so they don't have to have people. And it makes sense. And most of us do things online more and more anyway. And it's easier than to stand on the line. And we're going to talk about how long it takes. So let's see what this editorial note is. Okay, let's not talk about that. Tax day was 2 months ago. So when was this story? This is from July, this story. But it's still pertinent to this day. So that's why I wanted to bring this story up. Tax day was 2 months ago, but millions of Americans are still waiting on their returns to be processed. If they have questions in the meantime, they may not have many options to get them answered. According to the agency report, and this is amazing, at the end of 2021 filing tax season, the Internal Revenue Service found itself with a backlog of more than 35 million tax returns. These languishing returns require manual processing by IRS employees. As I mentioned, the vast majority of them do not require IRS, but the ones that remain do require it. About half of the unprocessed returns were submitted on paper. The frustration of waiting to receive confirmation your return was processed, or that your return is finally on the way, or refund is finally on the way, could get even worse if you try to call the IRS looking in for more. So here's the numbers. This is amazing. Only 7% of callers to account management lines at the IRS were able to reach a live human, according to a mid-year report with the National Taxpayer Advocate. So the National Taxpayer Advocate is part of the IRS. It's an independent department, they tell us, but it is part of the IRS. So this is the IRS telling you, hey, we're only answering 7%. 7%, not 70, 7%. For the phone line for people seeking help from the Form 1040 for tax returns, the most frequently called IRS helpline, only 3% of callers reached a representative. So what happened to 97%? They didn't get anybody. They can't get their questions answered. The agency received more than 4 times as many calls in 2021 filing season as it did in 2019. And on top of COVID-19 closures that limited staff availability, the IRS has endured budget cuts, and there it is that's the budget. See, it's the budget cuts. And the labor shortages that have decreased the size of its workforce. I just touched on that, why that is. IRS employees could not keep pace with the massive volume of calls, resulting in the poorest service ever in the spring of 2021, the agency release stated. Whether people are trying to respond to mailed notices from the IRS or want to check on the status of their refund, they often want to go directly to a person to get answers to their financial matters instead of checking online. Bell is a principal accountant and founder of Bell Tax, based in Chicago, and says it's up to taxpayers to be patient as they try to get answers to their questions. Well, you really don't have a choice, do you? So you got to be patient. Well, whether you're patient or not, you're going to be patient. What's a taxpayer to do if they have questions and the IRS and the information is your online account doesn't resolve the mystery? Now, again, I mentioned that a lot of the IRS, they started these online accounts a couple of months ago. They started trying to use them more. They expanded much of the services on these online accounts, and some of it works and some of it doesn't. Right? These are new websites, vast majority of information. They have a new program there where you can get your power of attorney processed overnight, they say, but I've never had one overnight. And many times my clients never even see it in their online account, even though in my account it shows it's pending on their account. They do not see it. Some have and some have not. But even in the best of times, it's taken still 2 weeks to get it processed and get me access to transcripts. Keep calling and stay prepared. The process of calling the IRS can be daunting. You may work your way through automated systems only to be stuck on hold for hours, taking time out of your day. And again, a lot of times you're going to be put on hold and then it's going to disconnect. But Bell says you may need to call often to reach a representative. He recommends calling early in the morning, just before the IRS phone lines close for your time zone. You may be able to avoid crowds on the phone lines by calling first thing in the morning or as the day winds down. But whenever you call, get prepared to get the help you need when you do reach the IRS. Citizens may think that once they reach the IRS, they've got a live person, that the agent knows about their particular case. Why would anybody think that? That someone that you're going to call on the IRS knows anything about your case other than what's on their computer screen in front of them. But he warns that the info is in front of them they don't have the information in front of them instantly. So it's important to have all your information ready to answer the agent's questions. Have a copy of your most recent return, your previous year's return, and any notices from the IRS handy. In my experience, while that's helpful, if they don't see it, it doesn't really matter. I can tell them, yeah, this is what it says, but until they get it in front of them, right, they have to verify all that information. In many cases, you'll need to reference information on your previous year's taxes to verify your identity. And that goes online. When you go online and register, they're going to ask you about sometimes they ask you about your adjusted gross income for a different year and things like that. Or sometimes they ask you for your a bank account or your mortgage number, things like that. Lean on your tax professional. If you worked with an enrolled agent or accountant to file your taxes, contact them to get further insight into. Okay, and then they'll call the IRS, and they won't be able to get through too, unless. And we're going to talk about this in just a minute. There's a service out there that helps people like my office, and I have to, for full disclosure, we use this service that we're going to talk about here. That they call, it's like cutting in line. Actually, someone gets in line for you, and then. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. If you haven't worked with a tax professional before and want extra help figuring out your situation, you might consider contacting one in your area. Gotta contact your local IRS office. Yeah, because they're going to answer your phone too. Nope. No, they're not. While most IRS taxpayer assistance centers were closed during the height of the pandemic, they've started to reopen in many areas. Well, that's true. They have started to reopen, but they're backed up tremendously. If you live very close to an office, you can go down. Again, not very easy. IRS taxpayer assistance centers are open Monday through Friday. Contact the Taxpayer Advocate Service. Again, they're very good for some things and not so very good for many other things. So it may be just a waste of your time. And they're busy too, and it's very hard to get through to them. What do you do to try to get answers from the IRS? Being persistent. Well, that's true. I mean, but you really don't have a choice but to be persistent. If you have to talk to the IRS, well, then you have to be persistent. If you keep calling and you can't get through, again, 7%, you got to keep trying.